brought to you by Excel, makers of inexpensive and high-quality Windows and Android tablets. Great gadgets for less. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV. We are at CES with our first victim, or perhaps brand that we're meeting with. So we're experimenting with all of our cameras to make sure everything works. But I'm here with Robb from IOSafe. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You're the boss of IOSafe.
I am the big boss, yeah.
And what does IOSafe do? These things look rather large.
Yeah, so IOSafe specializes in fireproof, waterproof data storage. So it's a bit like an aircraft black box, but for data. And this is our new product we're just announcing at CES right now. It's the 1515. And it's basically a Synology DS1515, but with a fireproof, waterproof enclosure wrapped around the drives and the motherboard.
So you could burn this.
You could burn this, you could dunk it, sort of a tornado, hurricane. You'd have a bad day if all that happened all at once.
Right.
But yeah, the data would survive, and it's meant to, then you take the drives out and plug them in a recovery array and boot it back up.
So basically the electronics are kind of expendable here, but the drives themselves are what are going to be okay after this disaster occurs.
Exactly. So the whole motherboard and the connectors in the back and everything like that gets blown away basically, but the drives survive.
Excellent. So let's take a look and see what's inside.
Okay, cool. So the product comes with this little hex wrench.
With a little magnet on the back. So we looked at the 2-drive one a while back.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, and these magnets kind of keep the
keep everything aligned.
Actually, keep the door on, so it doesn't just fall right off.
And people need to realize how this is heavy. This is probably like a 15-pound door.
This.
You've been carrying this around all over Las Vegas.
Yeah, a little bit.
This is probably about 100 pounds. Is that?
No, it's about 60 pounds.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. So you don't want to drop it on your toe.
Right. That's probably a good assertion.
And so this door, let me explain this a little bit. So you can't just combine a heat-producing computer with a perfectly insulated box and hope everything's going to work out okay, right? So with IOSafe, we have these vent channels we call flow-safe vents. And what this does is during normal operation, the air flows through these channels, and I'll take this cover off, but through these channels and around the outside of this extrusion, and then out the back. You have the fans out the back. So the air's blowing through the entire device the whole time.
That's interesting. So it's basically just the heat is transferring out, but it's still hermetically sealed, I guess, inside.
Well, the heat from the hard drives inside, go ahead and take this layer off. So the hard drives are generating heat, but they're in this hermetically sealed enclosure.
Now it's neat when I reviewed the 2-drive version. I live on the East Coast. I think you're at a higher elevation. When I got the drive, you hear the air, like the air pressure had to balance out because it's airtight. Right?
Exactly. So you can take this whole box, and with this door on, you can throw that in the ocean, or it's sealed in there. You can throw that in the ocean or hit it with a fire hose, and the drives just don't get wet.
Wow.
And so there's a gasket that runs around this perimeter, and then that bolts onto there.
And the gasket's pretty thick there too.
Yeah, it's a nice silicone gasket. And so this is a 5-drive model, and it's expandable to 15 drives, but all the drives are held in this protective enclosure for water, but conducts heat. And then outside of this white material here is our DataCast fireproof insulation. And what that does is, in a fire, of course, your electrical cords and everything burn up. But in a fire, what happens is there's water chemically bound to the insulation carrier. Okay. And it's a non-toxic material, and it's just loosely bound to the water molecule. And in a fire, it gets hot enough to where that water molecule unhooks and then gets pushed off as steam.
Wow, okay.
So
you'll see steam coming off of this?
Really? Absolutely. Wow. Okay. If you throw this in a fire, you'll see it exhausting steam. And what's happening is, instead of air flowing through the box, because you wouldn't want 2,000 F going through, because that would ruin the drives, what happens is this is a steam chamber inside of here, basically, and the steam is being created and it's being pushed out all the vent holes. So the fire energy can't get in because the net flow of gas is always out. So it's kind of cool to be able to do it this way. I think it's really elegant in a way because it doesn't require electricity. There's no moving parts. It doesn't matter, where the box is. It's just relying on the chemical property of water. And
pretty simple.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. There's
it's
nothing
understood,
to break,
right? There's nothing, right? Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, I explain it sometimes as, it's kind of like a pot of water on the stove where you can put 1,000 burners on that pot of water. And the temperature of the water goes up, 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 and it hits the boiling point, 100 C, and it just stays there.
Wow.
Right?
Yep.
So, and the pot doesn't melt until all the water's gone.
Right.
And then when all the water's gone, then you're going to ruin that pot because now it's the temperature of the flame, not the temperature of the water.
And the water's kind of acting as a way to just dissipate the heat, the
exactly.
excess heat, to keep it
exactly.
stable. Right.
It's an endothermic reaction, basically boiling water from 100 and getting it to jump across and be a gas. There's a lot of energy that's sucked into that. And so it's safes in general kind of operate the same way, and IOSafe uses that technology that's proven, but in a new twist to basically make it compatible with computers and safes.
Got it.
So we have cooling during normal operation, and then there's cooling during a fire.
Right.
Right? And the outside of this would be
Completely toasted.
glowing red hot,
Right. Wow.
and the inside is held at a low temperature where the drives can survive.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's kind of how it works.
Now, and so from the technical side, this is a Synology Nass.
Yep.
So if we were to spin it around to the back here, we have kind of the usual array of ports. We got so it's got 4 LAN ports on the back here.
Yeah, four NICs. They're all gigabit ports that can be aggregated together. So you can push and pull up to 400 megabytes a second out of this.
So it's
actually
running at
like
full Synology speed. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with those. Yep.
And then what's new about the 1515 is that it includes hardware encryption.
Oh, okay.
And so, and it's a pretty fast. You can run fully encrypted at 180 megabytes a second. So,
which is still pretty
So there's a
decent,
penalty for going full encryption, but it will still saturate a gigabit LAN, and you'd have to link them together to really realize that full speed.
And if you want to do the additional units that you said you can link together, you go through the gigabit ports. Is that how you do
No,
it?
you actually. I don't have the board loaded in this model, but there's some eSATA ports that connect basically the other modules, and the expansion modules are the same size as the primary modules. So fully expanded, you'd have 3 boxes that would be this size.
Right, so next to each other, they'll all be the same size.
Right next to each other. Right. We also have like a rack mount kit that puts 2 of them side by side and allows you to dock it into a rack and lock the door and protect the ports in the back from people pulling out cables
coming in and doing whatever. Right.
You know, people can cut the cable, obviously, but it's just kind of helping keep the honest people honest.
Right. Yeah.
You know, messing with your power button or being able to touch that. What's this button doing?
Right.
And if you're an IT person and you're in charge of a company or a small business,
these days you
don't want people messing with that.
No, you don't. Absolutely.
So there's a floor mount kit. There's a rack mount kit. It's already in the channel, ready for sale right now. You can jump on our website or just about anywhere online and pick one of these up.
And this is the top of the line now. So what's the price on this one?
So that's right. This is top of the line. So diskless, it's $19.99, and then there's a lot of different layers of data recovery service, as well as hard drives. We're introducing WD Reds as sort of the standard loaded configuration.
Okay, yeah.
And that starts at about $2,500, I think.
And that's in the door, you're ready to go.
Ready to go, right. Or you could buy a diskless and load your own drives.
Right.
The trade-off is with the diskless version, you don't get the data recovery service.
Okay.
With the loaded version, you do get the data recovery.
Because you've installed the drives and you can
we
guarantee.
know what kind of drives are loaded. You know, we'll back that up. So the top end is about $35,000 for 90 terabytes, 5-year warranty, 5-year DRS. Pro,
if you're some big enterprise,
service.
that's something you probably would spend on something like that, and you get the ability to lock down your thing.
Exactly, and this kind of acts like a little mini hardened data center in a way.
Right.
Like if you're a company and you have 1,000 remote offices, you might place one of these at each one of the remote offices. Maybe you trickle back the data that is uber important, but the bulk of the data, maybe people's operating systems and different things like that, that maybe isn't quite as important, you could store locally.
Cool.
And keep it safe. And
right. It's pretty neat. Now, this is, of course, the high end, so there are lower end ones. So I think for a lot of viewers, they probably would want the 2-drive version, which is pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, it's a little less powerful.
It's a little brother.
But it's got the same engineering. I mean, the one I have is exactly like this.
Yeah,
and it's
just
as hardened as this one is. Right?
And the entry price point for that is $599.
Right.
I've seen it online, maybe $549.
So it's in the ballpark for something you'd spend on a personal NAS. And,
I mean, I'd say there's definitely a premium. I mean, there's going to be a premium when you add this many features onto a
and
box.
You're buying more stuff because this thing's it's obviously some
yeah,
here, so.
and it just depends on peace of mind. Sort of how much is. If you were staring at the burning remnants of your house, would you pay an extra $200, $300 to get all your family photos back?
Right.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Right.
but maybe you would.
Right.
I know I would.
Right. And it's good to have backups, but it's also as an additional level of storage. And then you have like a portable one now, also, right? Like a little SSD. So
we do. Yep. So this is the IOSafe portable drive, and it's kind of everything but fireproof.
Okay, so you can throw it in the water.
Throw it in the water. You can drag it behind your car. You can chuck it off, a 2-story building kind of thing. SSD, and it's a 1 terabyte SSD. It's a little over $1,000 for this.
But for like professionals that are out in the doing something,
I think if you're a photographer, videographer, and you've just captured Sasquatch,
right?
Important to store it somewhere.
So it's USB 3. What kind of SSD is inside?
It could be a Samsung, it could be a Crucial, but a good, one of those two.
Right, yeah. Good drive, so pretty neat. So we'll keep looking to see what else comes out this year. This looks like a pretty big one. These are made now in the United States also.
They are. They're made in Auburn, California.
Great.
Yeah, so not a whole lot of hard drives being made in the United States.
No, there aren't. So you're importing those, but you're building the hardware here in the States.
Yeah.
And you started the company because you had a need. You didn't see this existing, and you created it.
I did. So, my background is in product design and development. So I've designed hundreds of products for lots of different kinds of companies and different industries, and had my small business and had a new family, and my first son was born. I was snapping pictures like crazy, and I just thought, well, I'll put my hard drive in the safe and I'll keep it safe. And I thought, well, that's really stupid. What happens if I forget to put it in the safe? And the day that I forget to do it, that's the day that fire happens.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'll just put it in the safe, and I'll shut the door, but I'll hold it open with a candle. And then the candle will melt and the door will shut, right? And I thought, well, that's really hokey. Someone's got to make this thing. Right. So I jumped online, like Fireproof hard drive.
Right.
Nothing.
Couldn't find it on Amazon.
Nothing.
It wasn't there.
Oh, it just wasn't anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Right, and then I started to dig through the patent database, and I realized that, this is a tricky problem. Like, how do you make a heat-producing computer and stick it in a perfectly insulated box and hope everything works out okay, right? It's a little tricky. And so over the years, we've iterated on the IOSafe concept and patented all kinds of angles of making this kind of device. And, we're just really good at it now.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
You got to head out to your next stop, but I really
Yep.
appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. Big fan of the product. I think these are, you can't beat the build quality on these things.
Yeah.
They're tanks, and they're heavy.
Yeah.
So, but I've got one. It's working great.
It makes people feel good.
It does.
They get one and they go, this is quality.
This is it. So, thanks again for joining us, and we'll hopefully
You're very welcome.
keep in touch, and we'll see what else you got coming up.
Yeah, have a great CES.
Thanks, we will.